Hello, and welcome to today's Thought for the Day. My name is Steve Mawhinney and I'm a lay reader at St Peter's, and it's lovely to be with you. Now, I don't know about you, but one of the things that I've most missed during this year, more than a year now, of lockdown for us in Bolton, has been going to the cinema. You see, I love films, I always have, but I also love the cinema experience too, that from the moment you walk into the screen and try and find the right seat, not too close to the front, not too close to the back, not too close to the sides, not too close to anyone else either. That moment when the lights dim and the anticipation builds. Or those extraordinary moments when the film's going where collectively as one, everyone in the cinema either jumps in terror or laughs at something funny. It's magical. But of course, like everyone else, I've had to get used to watching films mostly just sat in my own living room on my own sofa as it streamed through the television. And so there I was last weekend, watching an extraordinary film called Nomadland. You might have seen that it's just won a lot of Oscars for Best Film and Best Director, and for Best Actress for Frances McDormand, who's extraordinary as she portrays this character, who finds herself in an incredibly difficult place. She'd been living with her husband in a really remote part of Nevada around a big factory. But unfortunately her husband had died, the factory had shut, and the whole town had effectively become abandoned. And so she found herself living out of a van and driving around the west coast of America, looking for work. It was a dangerous, precarious, and quite frightening experience in many ways. But actually there are some extraordinary things that she encounters too. There's a real sense through the film of this beautiful scenery and countryside she's in, and of a growing relationship between her and the natural world. There's also this extraordinary community of nomads that were featured in the film. People who get together and share their lives and then meet up as they find seasonal work together and build and intertwine lives, not always together, but actually forming really deep, honest, vulnerable, real relationships, real community that's actually very attractive. And the character goes on this journey that both literally but also in terms of growing and healing from all that she's been through. And it's hard for her to give up. And it got me thinking as I sat there in my house, which I've obviously been stuck in like most of us have so much over the past year or more, and thinking that actually there's some truth there, I think, for us as Christians, that when we're able, when the pandemic finally eases and it's safe to do so, actually, I think God is calling us to get back out of our houses and get back into our communities, into our neighbourhoods. Because actually I think even pre the pandemic, maybe in the Western world, as church, we've perhaps bought in too much into that cultural way of thinking that says, as you get wealthier, as you get more successful, what do? You build a bigger and bigger house, a more beautiful house with more and more things so that you never have to leave. And you can hide away in your house just with you or your close family or one or two friends and not have to engage with others. And actually, I don't think that's how we're called to live. It's not how the first Christians live. I don't think it's what Jesus is calling us to do. Because remember, he's calling us to follow him. And I think Jesus is at work in our neighbourhoods, in our communities, in our workplaces, in our places of education, in our wider society. And that if we're going to follow him, we need to get out there as well and get involved. We can't do it from our living rooms. Similarly, we're called to be builders, aren't we, of God's kingdom, building community, building peace, building justice, building bridges. And again, that's pretty hard to do when you're stuck on your sofa. And I'm reminded, of course, that as Christians, we're called to be in the world, but not of the world. Actually, our home ultimately isn't in this world, it's in the world to come, where we'll get to finally be reunited fully with our Heavenly Father, who loves us and has prepared a place for us. So hopefully as we come to the end of the worst part of the pandemic and are able to get out again, when it's safe to do so, and obviously for people who are well enough to do it, I think, having watched Nomadland and reflected on it, that maybe God isn't calling us to be nomads, maybe he is, but at least I think he's calling us to get out of our houses, to get out into the world, and to start following him again. Go well on that journey. Blessings be with you. Thanks for listening.